Hello everybody, this is Snarist, and welcome back to the continuation of my Ultra Age Hard Difficulty Guide. This is part 11, Viper Canyon. And this is a mostly pretty straightforward section. You just follow the path along this canyon, it sort of winds around in a figure eight, and you'll be facing a mixture of automatons and those weird bird things. And there's nothing really noteworthy to worry about too much. You know, you saw in the previous part all that wandering around we did, even though we didn't fight that many enemies, all things considered. We still fought enough of the bigger ones to be able to collect 18,000 crystals. So yeah, I mean, we pretty much sorted out all our upgrades that we need to complete the game, but you know, a few more doesn't hurt, does it? So you'll see quite a few areas like that where it's got an open space, but you can't go anywhere. You just got to stick to the path. By the way, once you at least beat Viper Canyon and you defeat Medea and you come back out this way, if you've got time shift, you can, you know, fast forward time, and there's, as long as you've got full pocket energy, there's one of those crystal things where if you've got full pocket energy and you're missing one of your time shifts, you can go ahead and use that energy to replenish a time shift, and so you can start a constant loop of going forward in time constantly. But the enemies in this area here, there's going to be a lot more of them, and they'll spawn in and everything. And so this was one of my primary like farming spots for more upgrades, but I'm not going to be doing that because it's not necessary. And while you absolutely could do that, or you could just spend a bit more time fighting some other enemies and all that to get all your upgrades, by the end of the game I have everything upgraded except for my steel blade, which I've got most of the upgrades for that, but I'm missing maybe like 5 or 6 of them. But steel blade is not really all that effective for the most part of the game. You know, you'll notice quite early on I used it for the first couple of chapters or so, but then as soon as I got the claymore I immediately dropped it. It would have definitely helped if there were more than 2 types of enemies, you know, besides organic enemies and automatons, but, you know, like a blend of both perhaps, but that's just not the case. And I've said before that I'd be open to the idea of potentially one day doing a challenge run where I only use a steel blade, or I use whatever weapons I want, but I can't get any upgrades. That seems very interesting, because the claymore is still viable, even if it doesn't have all of its upgrades, and the timing can feel a little bit off at times with the parrying. I think you could definitely make that final boss fight, or even the boss fight against Atlas, pretty tough. But I also don't think this is one of those games that is all that fun when you're going to no upgrades. There's just something about it. And I apologise if you hear a little bit of creaking in the background. My chair, when it goes on a bit of a swivel, it tends to make a little bit of a creaking sound. So I promise I'm not releasing any gas. It's just the chair. So what I was going to say as well, something I was going to say, just trying to remember it. Oh yeah, I said a quick look on my Steam wish list, and I got quite a few games on there. Most of them $30 and under, which is good. And I swear, there's games old enough on there to not be worth the full price, but they are being placed at full price. So while it does suck that Steam puts some games that are quite old at the higher price that they do, what I'd tell you is really good is that when the Steam sales do happen, they're very, very good. Like, PlayStation has tons of sales all the times on things, but when you get a game that's truly worth it, when they go on sale, they go on sale for maybe like 20-25% off, whereas on Steam it's like 50 to 60% off. It's really great. But I got more than enough games right now in my backlog that I've downloaded already, or I've bought and it's ready to download. Because I was looking at it a little bit more, and it's like, yeah, I've got tons of games to last me for the whole year. Sorry about that. As I mentioned before in a few parts ago, I pretty much just woken up. It's very, very early in the morning, a lot earlier than I expected to be awake. And I've got work, so unless I get a little bit of an energy drink in me, I'm probably going to get all fucked up. And by the end of the day, I'd be surprised if I can make it without collapsing into a sleep. That'd be very awkward trying to explain that one. But yeah, speaking of which, you know, I'd love to be able to do this like full time, and I'd love to be able to stream my progress. Like the idea that I can play these games on their highest difficulties and make walkthroughs and not guides and all that. But I also go streaming, and I stream these games and I show the process of what I go through to get these guides going. But at the same time, you know, I have to be entertaining, and I work much better in being entertaining when you know, I don't have any filters or limitations, and when I bounce off of other people. Because when I bounce off of other people, I think I'm a little bit more charismatic, I think I'm a little bit more confident, but when it comes to me just sitting here by myself, even just talking to myself like this, I tend not to shine through the best that I can. You know, ironically enough, you get people that are very social creatures, and they typically thrive in an environment with lots of people, but when it comes to being on their own, they can talk just fine without messing up their words like I do and slurring them a little bit. But me, who can do either or prefers just talking like this or being like this to myself, I find it rather difficult to do it knowing that it's for other people rather than just myself. Because as much as I say, you know, I don't care what anyone thinks of what I say or my opinions, that is true, but I also have to understand that I need to be respectful enough to, you know, be like, I'm not just going to say like edgy things for the sake of being edgy. You know, there's a time and a place for it. You know, it's the whole thing about the controversy with the N-word and all that. It's like, you know, you can't say that at all, especially if you're not black or whatever. But I mean, it is just a word. We've given it way too much power. We've given tons of words way too much power. They don't really mean anything. But at the same time, you know, even if I did have the power to use that word, I probably just wouldn't even use that word. I probably wouldn't use the N-word or anything like that, just because, you know, I'd be using it just for the sake of using it. And it doesn't add any impact, it doesn't do anything for me. And this is a really sad fight, this. Not because I do badly in it, but because I don't get hit at all, or I don't think I do. And it's another one of these hammer bosses that we fought in, I think it might have been part 8 or part 9. I think it might have been part 8. And I don't think we took any damage in that fight either, but in this one, now that the Claymore's been properly upgraded and our parrying mechanic is a lot stronger, yeah, it's just not even fair. And it goes to show just how powerful the Claymore really is. Look at that, just ripping into him. And so when you've cleared out this boss, make sure you don't forget any of the loot in here when it comes to power gears. And then what you have to end up doing afterwards is you've got to run back out. You've got to head down through Viper Canyon again. And when you get about halfway through Viper Canyon, you'll encounter Medea. And I do actually lose to her once. And that's why in the next video, you'll go from a day cycle like it is right now, and it'll turn to nighttime. That's because I lost to Medea. And while I could have beaten her a lot quicker in the actual run where I beat her, I got a little bit nervous because my health was getting a little bit low, and because I died, my critical rage isn't there anymore, so I've got to play a little bit more passively. But until we get there, we're going to have a couple of encounters. This is one of them, and this is a little bit tricky, because not only do you have this giant armored dude who runs in and jumps, which, by the way, if he doesn't do that two-handed swing and jumps up into the air and comes down on you, if he just jumps up straight into the air without doing anything else and is going to come down on you, make sure you stay back, because he'll let off like a little bit of a ground shockwave, and it does quite a bit of damage. If you can pick and choose, because the lock-on's usually pretty good in this game, but unfortunately when you're trying to find your right target, it gets age locks onto the wrong person or the wrong thing, and you end up trying to scramble around trying to get the right lock-on target. Meanwhile, you get the odd enemy here and there that, you know, manages to knock you away and do tons of damage as my screen stutters a little bit. But if you can help it, take out the guys that are flying around first. Keep away from the battle to de-aggro yourself, so they're focusing on each other rather than you. And so I'm going to take advantage of that little projectile attack that the katana can do when you do the change blade attack. When you're on the ground, it creates sort of like a bit of a slash attack. It's great for the organic enemies, especially the chickens, but the automatons, it basically has no effect as my screen stutters again. Wish it would fucking stop that. And there it goes again. I have no idea what the hell's going on. By the way, those crystals up there, That's just Claymore and Katana. Obviously, from the counts that I have, 13 Katanas and 14 Claymores, I obviously don't need them. But if you do want them, the only way to get them is to get an upgrade for your wiretap, where you can pull crystals from far away. But there's only 2 real examples of this ever being a thing, of where it can happen. And I've already proven in an earlier part of the game where you can get to it easily, but with this one over here you can't. But since using wiretap to pull certain crystals or objects away that are further than you and you can't access them properly, it doesn't really matter. So it's not really an upgrade worth investing in. But it's still there if you happen to have that upgrade. But like I said, this game isn't very difficult if you follow along with what I'm doing and the upgrades I'm making. But if you take it at your own pace and you're not so worried about upgrades and everything, this game will give you a sufficient challenge. It's just that it's one of those games with awkward balancing where if you're only doing a little bit of upgrading a bit at a time and you don't see how useful item pull is, where you can get tons of your upgrades before the game's even over, or even close to over, well, then the game becomes super easy, like it is for me right now. But for everyone else, you'll find the game provides enough of a challenge. So that's enough out of me. I'll see you guys in the next part with the Medea boss fight.